Hello, viewers. I hope you all are doing well, and moreover, you all are safe in this very global pandemic. I am Arushi Patnaik, and I welcome you all on behalf of my whole team, Team 19. We are here to discuss with you about the problem statement tackling global pandemic, a global outbreak, COVID 19.
The capital is being ravaged at a frightening speed. With every pyre that burns, India's self-belief is dying. Each funeral is a story of personal loss and national shame. This small hospital in North Delhi is facing a daily struggle.
Ma'am, we have been spending sleepless nights since last 1 week. At times we feel like crying because we are not able to help patient properly. Every day this is the same scenario. We are left only with 2 hours of oxygen, 3 hours of death, and we are only getting assurance from the system, no oxygen.
So now the question arises, what is COVID 19? Well, it seems to be a very silly question, but still I would like you guys to know about it a bit more. Coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID 19 is defined as an illness caused by a novel coronavirus called Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2, which was first identified as an outbreak in the Wuhan city, Hubei province, China. It was initially reported to the World Health Organization (WHO) on December 31st, 2019. On December 31, 2019, it was declared as a global health emergency. On March 11, 2020, it was declared as a global pandemic, its first such designation since declaring H1N1 influenza as a pandemic in 2009. Now coming about how this disease spreads, it spreads primarily through the droplets of saliva or discharge from the nose when an infected person coughs or sneezes. So now I'd like to invite Sahil to throw some more light on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Arushi. Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed Sahil. And if we talk about the effects the pandemic has had on our health, there are some significant health issues which pop up during or post-COVID infection, like fatigue, fever, shortness of breath, or even brain fogging and anxiety. And the list obviously continues. But a greater threat is posed due to the long-term impacts, like the damage to your internal organs, like your liver, your lungs, where the alveoli are compromised, your heart muscles weaken, or even damage is done to the brain, which can lead to seizures or strokes. And as these symptoms may persist for months sometimes, so this may even cause depression owing to the lack of social contact and being bubbled into negativity. But still, there are so many other health impacts which are still unknown, and we still need to have our focus on our overburdened healthcare system, which seems to be collapsing and needs major upgradation. So now I would like to call Praveen to continue further.
As Sahil said, the virus has a major impact over health. So now I want to draw some points over the more general scenarios it affects people and nation. As the virus started spreading around the world, it affected millions of people in very different ways. The various problems faced by people, such as shutdown of hotels, restaurants, and many religious places. People were forced to stay at their home, which led to mental health problems such as anxiety, depression, etc. All the national and international traveling has been banned, and students were also facing problems such as postponement in their examination, which would affect their future ahead. Of all these, farmers and laborers were also massively affected. On the economic side, it led to a massive damage to the people and the nation as a whole. Now, tens of millions of people are on the verge of falling into extreme poverty. The GDP of India and various countries has fallen massively. This devastation was due to slowing of manufacturing of essential items, disruption in supply chain, and loss in national and international business. Many industries were fully shut down, such as tourism industries. This all slowed down the revenue generation, which the country massively depends upon. So that is all I have to say for now. So now I invite Alok Mishra for more thoughts.
Hi guys, this is Alok Mishra. I'm here to draw your attention toward the recession due to COVID-19 in India. So recession is basically a term that refers to significant decline in the general economic activity in designated region. So COVID-19 recession is the severe global economic crisis that is caused by the COVID-19 lockdowns and other precautions taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. So here are some factors that leads to economic degradation, like the largest GDP contraction ever in financial year 2020 and 2022, that is minus 24%. Sharp rise in unemployment, a stress on supply chains, decrease in government income, collapse on the tourism industry, collapse of the hospitality industry, reduced consumer activity, and so on. So in India, up to 53% businesses have specified a certain amount of impact of shutdowns caused due to the coronavirus on operation, as per survey in March. By 24th of April, the unemployment rate has increased nearly 19% within the month, reaching 26% unemployment across India. So, according to Center of Monitoring Indian Economy, about 14 crore Indians lost employment during the lockdown. More than 45% households across the nation reported an income drop as compared to the previous year. Various businesses such as hotels, like airlines, they cut salary and laid off their employees. And number of young startups has been impacted as funding has been fallen. A Data Labs report shows a 45% decrease in the total growth STS funding as compared to 2019. According to some reports, in Indian startup has fallen over 50% in 2020. The effect of COVID-19 was devastating on Indian economy. Many people lost their jobs and livelihood because India went on nationwide curfew for 2 months previous year and is in the same situation currently. In addition to this, even government was badly affected as well. So overall, looking at this aspect with which the crisis has overtaken the global economy, this may provide a clue how deep the recession will be. There is a need for additional action by policymakers in coming to support economic activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok. Now I am Saidev Kumar here to talk about why making final vaccine takes so much time. What happens here is that different experiments and observations are done in clinical trials for establishing safest and efficacy of a vaccine before getting licensed. Talking about the processes, first scientists and doctor research about dosage range and drugs will be given, like whether by tablets or injections and etc. Then coming to testing is done. First testing is done with animals to avoid any severe side effects. Then in phase 2 clinical trials is done with humans. It has 4 stages. First is testing is done in very few people, then with 100 people, and then with 1000 people testing is done, and it is observed for almost 3 months. And in final stage, vaccinated peoples are observed for more than few years to know about any severe side effects of the vaccine. In phase 4, approval from higher authorities are taken, such as government or any medical facilities. Then after that, finally, manufacturing is done. It takes so much time due to lack of factories and expensiveness, especially in the country like India. Thank you. Now I would like to call Hitesh.
Hello there. My name is Hitesh Kumar Linkar. Today I am here for elaborate about shortage of ventilators in this pandemic situation. Before I start, I would like to thank you, Sadev. Let's start. The reason behind shortage of ventilators in India, there are so many reasons, just like lack of trained manpower to operate, maintenance of correct pressure gases, and the use of proper consumables, and then again cheating of workers while preparing ventilators, like internal damage. While using ventilators in a hospital, because of pressure drop, some of them broken within 1 and 2 hours. Thank you. Now I would like to ask Jaswant to say something.
Thank you, Hitesh, for giving me this opportunity. Hello, friends. I am Jaswant Sahu from Team 19. I am here to focus some light on the topic of India's oxygen crisis and what are the reasons behind it. Now, the main reason behind the shortage of oxygen in our country are due to low rate of production, lack of storage facilities, and improper transportation of purified oxygen. So, let us come to the first point, that is low rate of production of oxygen. From the sources, we came to know that about 80% of purified oxygen used in India is produced by 8 states only, out of which around 75 to 80% used in industrial areas and another 20 to 25% used in medicals. Now comes to the second reason, that is lack of storages for purified oxygen. Generally, oxygen is purified by two methods, that is by liquefaction and by fractional distillation. After that, the liquid oxygen has to be taken for transportation to the distributor with the help of cryogenic tankers at very low temperature, which then converted into gas for filling oxygen cylinder for our patients. But in our country, due to shortage of these cryogenic tankers, proper supply of oxygen is not possible. Now come to the our last point, that is supply of oxygen to the required places. But it is not possible as production centers are far away from the hospitals. However, the demand for oxygen is exponentially increasing. Still, our country lacks enough transport facilities and storage capacity. Now, I would like to call my friend Akash to elaborate this more significantly. Thank you.
Hello viewers, thank you Jaswant. Now here I am there to speak about what are the major steps taken by our government or private organizations to cope up with the oxygen crisis and unavailability of adequate ventilators. So as we have discussed earlier, coronavirus affects the lungs of the victim in a very acute manner. The normal lung capacity of the victim is effectively decreased and then he or she has to be provided with oxygen supply, such that the amount of oxygen required by the body is maintained. To meet the excessive need for oxygen all over the country, India has floated a global tender for procuring 50,000 tons of oxygen. The production capacity of India, our country, has also increased from 6817 megaton per day to 731 megaton per day. There are many oxygen plants also been initiated throughout the country. Our PM Sri Narendra Modi has sanctioned 201.58 crore rupees to set up 162 oxygen plants across the country, from which 33 has already been set up. There are also been many private companies like Reliance, JSW Steel, Tata Group, Vedanta, etc. have set up oxygen plants to meet the adequate need of oxygen. Our Minister of Union Health Minister Harshvardhan has also announced to set up the ventilator in states where the rise of COVID-19 cases are in peak. 34,228 ventilators were generated in the state by the center. Now the most raised question over the past years, what is the current oxygen demand in the country? Is India equipped enough to meet this huge demand? Thank you. Now I would like to call ROC for the next content.
Is it enough for tackling the outbreak? While oxygen therapy appears to be a benign treatment, it comes with some possible negative effects. Oxygen is expensive and noisy. Maintaining a cannula in the nostrils, it may cause dryness, bleeding, and discomfort for the patient. Stopping the oxygen won't make the patient dumb. Because one of the biggest risks in administering the supply of oxygen at this stage is knowing the doses. You can say we need to know the appropriate doses. Like when we are giving oxygen, we need to know how much to give. High flow of oxygen, it could also cause choke in the person. It causes toxicity. So the most important thing in oxygen administration is that we have to accept certain things, because it's not easy to see a loved one struggle. So we can also refer to some case studies where we could see that the patient, they need pure air to breathe and not this artificial oxygen. So, if we compare to our Mother Earth, to our Mother Nature, we only have 21% of oxygen available. But the amount of oxygen we are using now, we are generating now, so can we say that our future generation, they are safe? Because we can't guarantee that they also gonna face the same pandemic, or they may also face the same outbreak as we are facing right now. So are they safe? So we can't say like this. So this very question arises: are our future generation safe? Now I'd like to invite Sahil to continue further on this.
Yes, definitely a very critical question to ask. Is the coming generation safe? So, in order to answer this question, we first need to answer some other questions like, do we have primary healthcare for everyone? Do we have proper hygiene and sanitization for everyone? Do we have strong grip over our data and information systems? In order to keep the coming generation safe, we definitely need to address these questions and come up with sustainable solutions so that not only serve the emergency purpose but also prevent them on the first hand. For example, we had the oxygen crisis, so we should definitely work on solutions so that we don't slide into such critical solutions and prevent them.
Definitely, we need to work upon certain things. We need to work upon certain solutions, and mainly the problem oxygen crisis, so that a future generation will not be facing anything like that, and they will be experiencing 0 years like 2019 and 2020. Because definitely, this outbreak, this pandemic has created a lot of havoc, a lot. It has affected people a lot. So we must ensure, and we need to ensure, that our future generation are very safe regarding this. So stay tuned for our next video, because we will be coming up with certain green ideas to reduce the problem of oxygen crisis and hence tackling the global outbreak or the pandemic. So if you liked the video, do hit the like button, and we have provided a Google form link in the description box to check it out and give your valuable feedback and suggestion in it. Thank you.